What else do I need to be able to do? What's that?
Malfunctions?
Malfunctions, right? You know, especially if I only got one hand on the gun, I've been injured, I may not be gripping the gun as hard as I should, all of those kind of things, depending on the type of gun you're using, I could have a malfunction. So a couple of things we need to discuss. I normally do not discuss malfunctions in my class because it takes up a lot of time and it's something that you should be practicing on your own. But we're going to cover malfunctions as well as talking about how we do them one-handed at the same time. So, what's the most common type of malfunction we'll get? Failure to fire. What is a failure to fire?
Bad round.
Got a click instead of a bang, okay? Now this is important because now I need to kind of understand what is going on here. The reason we say it's the most common is there's the two things that happen that cause a failure to fire. Either my magazine was not seated properly, okay? Or I have a bad round, a bad primer or something like that, and I get a light strike on that primer and the gun does not fire. So the reason that is important is because if I pull the trigger and I get a click, this is a sequence critical event. If I'm just standing here and I've got both hands, step one is tap the magazine, step two is to rack the action. Now in this case, I've got an empty magazine, so it locks to the rear. But I want to tap, rack, and then come back up and try to see what needs to be done, okay? So if I've only got one hand on the gun, one hand available to me, I can do the exact same thing. I can tap, I can rack, whether it be on my holster, on my belt, or something else like that, making sure that I'm not pointing the gun at myself, and get back into the fight. So if it's in my left hand, it's the same thing. I tap, I rack, and I get right back into whatever needs to be done. Make sense? It's a fairly simple process at that point. What if I have what they used to refer to as a type 2 malfunction or a stovepipe? Right, you know what I'm talking about there? What's a stovepipe?
Brass stuck in the chamber.
Failure to eject. The round did not eject properly, and when I look at the gun, I look like I got a trash can sticking up there where my front sight's supposed to be. Now, we used to try to swipe that out of the way. That used to be the old technique. What's the new technique now for a stovepipe? Tap, rack, get back into the fight. So I haven't changed anything here. The only key that I want to remember is depending on the gun that I'm using, when I'm rocking the gun on my body, I want to make sure that my ejection port is clear so that brass can fall away from the chamber and get out of the gun. What's the other malfunction that I need to be able to clear?
Double feed.
Okay, so what is a double feed? And this is a little bit weird because a double feed is an AR-15 where two rounds are trying to get into the chamber at the same time, right? And a double feed on a pistol is really, we've left a round in the chamber. Typically it's a piece of brass that did not extract, was left in the chamber, and now I have to get that out. So clearing that double feed is a little bit different. So double feed with a rifle is one thing, double feed with a pistol is a little bit different. So I'm gonna do this one. I have to simulate this one because otherwise there's nothing to be seen here, okay? So I've got a double feed on this gun. This is kind of interesting because it used to be the procedure was lock, rip, rack, load. Everybody remember that one? Okay. What do we teach now?
Drop, insert, rack.
Right. So the reason that is important is because with certain types of guns, it was very difficult to rip that magazine out of the body of the gun with pressure from the slide on the round that's partially feeding into the chamber or onto the feed ramp of the gun. But in most cases, that's not the case. Most service pistols now, I can literally just rip that magazine out of the bottom of the gun, rack the action, and go from there. The relatively new thing that people are teaching right now, I say relatively new, it's only been a few years, probably been longer than I remember, is now because of that, we're using inertia, meaning all I really have to do is use the inertia of the gun. As long as I push the magazine release button, it will eject that old magazine out of the bottom of the gun, and now I simply rack, and then I reload the gun. Get my magazine, put it in the gun, put a chamber in the round, and go from there. So the interesting thing with that one is if I am in a one-handed situation and I have a double feed, okay, I have a double feed and I need to clear this from the gun, I don't necessarily have to, makes things a lot easier. As long as I press that magazine release button, I can get that magazine to eject out of the bottom of the gun. Then I rack my action and then I just basically reload the gun. So all of the things that we just discussed that we need to be able to do, it's the exact same thing. I'm just loading with one hand now. Make sense? So I still have to put the gun somewhere while I reload it. I have to eject the magazine out of the gun. Now, that being said, I don't want to walk away from the fact that that magazine may not want to come out of the gun. Depending on the gun that you're using, that magazine with a round partially on the feed ramp might not want to come free, okay? If it doesn't want to drop out, what do we need to do? Lock the slide to the rear. So what's the other thing that I think is important that you need to be able to do with one hand? Lock the slide to the rear. Now, strong hand only, this is relatively easy for me, okay, because I have relatively big hands. I can simply push my thumb onto the slide release, push the slide to the rear and lock it to the rear. If it's in my left hand, I can do the same thing on almost any part of my body because I can reach that slide stop fairly easy. There are a few guns out there that make this difficult, all right? The one specifically are most of the SIG designs because the slide stop is so far to the rear, makes it really easy to reach with your strong hand, but it becomes very difficult for you to reach it with your support hand. So what happens is, as you guys can see where the slide lock is on this gun, it's very difficult for me to get my knuckle up underneath the slide stop on this gun. So what I'm gonna have to do is break my grip, and when I break my grip, now I can use my thumb to drive on the back of the gun, and it frees up my trigger finger to now get underneath the slide stop and lock it to the rear. So it depends on your hand size and the type of the gun you're using. Just using the knuckle of your trigger finger may not work. But in this particular case, with these, it's not easy, but I can do it, okay? If you have a really difficult time, please don't get mad at me. Is it okay if I put this on my shoe? Yeah. Okay. If you have a really difficult time with this, getting pressure on your side of your body can be difficult. If you use the entire top of your foot, that gets a lot easier. So you drop to a knee, stick that on the slide on the top of your foot, and now it's very easy to push down and forward when you lock the slide to the rear. This is all gonna be specific to your gun and the equipment that you're wearing, okay? And then of course, your hand size and your dexterity with your hands are gonna have an impact as well.